size 3?
Create a two-story architectural.
Not tonight. No, that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one we do.
Okay.
So we're continuing on with the model from last week, but I'll go through that in a sec.
No worries.
So, welcome to week 4, as we established before. We'll just wait for Noah. So last week we finished off by, that's not the model we were doing. So we did our exterior walls. This is not the model we did last week, was it? Oh, that's right. So we put our exterior walls in. We've put our doors and windows in. We've moved all our windows up to a desired head height level. So we lost some of our windows down the back, and I showed you how to do the plan region to show windows above or below the cut plane. And I introduced you to the view, what do they call it in here? The view depth, the view range, sorry, in Revit. So you've got to remember, you're not just drawing like just 2D drawings anymore, you're building a model. So Revit will cut the model at 1200 or whatever you decide to cut it at. You may decide 1500 for some reason or 1700. It's up to you. And then you need to manipulate the drawing or the sheet or the view to show things that are above or below that cut plane that don't get cut. So it was a very quick introduction to the view range last week. I sometimes struggle with it myself still, trying to get things to work or show, more importantly. Particularly I find when you put a split in a house up or down, like trying to get that to show on one drawing rather than 2, because it's really bad to have it on, it's really annoying to have it on 2, sort of thing. So you start using the view range and plan regions to do that. Well, that's the best way I've found, sort of thing. So if you guys last week didn't get up to this point of the model, I don't think I finished this properly. So I've put up on Learn under linking an AutoCAD exercise, a Revit file for this week that we can, if you just want to download it and use it, it's one that I prepared earlier. That is actually in one of the templates they use in a later course. So the project browser might be slightly differently named, but you've got sheets set up already. So I use this for a training session that I did on drawing a hipped roof. So it's got floor plans set up with wall tags and elevations set up as well already. So at least you guys can have a reference to what you can make it look like, and remember that you've got the zigzags or the elbow on your level marker to break that to make it look like, to take the text away and things like that. So tonight we're going to put a roof, a ceiling, fascia and gutter, and probably a soffit lining, so eaves lining, and we're going to put a floor and a slab edge on this model, and we're going to put some rooms into this model as well, and that will probably be it for this model. And then we're going to jump on to exercise 2, class exercise 2, which is a simple house in Revit. So this time we're not drawing it from a CAD file, we're going to draw it from scratch. So this has got sort of guided. We'll run through probably getting all the walls in together, and then I'm going to let you guys do the doors and windows yourself, and then we'll come back and do the roof again. And then I'll show you a few different things you can do with eaves or soffit linings. I refer to them as soffit linings because that's what it is in the program. Again, that's more of an American terminology sort of thing. So if you guys just want to download that Revit file week 4 under the AutoCAD linking exercises heading and just open up that. Just refresh it. Just refresh Learn because I put it up there 5 minutes ago.
Oh, right.
So if you're on Learn before, it might not be there.
It wasn't.
Oh, I saw that.
So using that file, hopefully that means everyone's on the same. We're all on the same page, project-wise. So theoretically, our roof and our floor should go in fine. So I have got this, which I will put up later, which is a guide that I put together for drawing a roof and by footprint. So we'll start with a roof because it's probably the most. It's really easy to do a roof with full eaves or no eaves. If you have a roof with a raised portico or part eaves to the front, like Metricon does on quite a few of our designs, only have an eave to 3 meters from the front, like back from the front face. They get quite difficult to do. I'm the roof guru at work, so I should know what I'm doing, but I just fake it till I make it. So there's some other terminology in our roof construction that you probably need to be aware of in Revit. So if I flick back to Revit, so if we all want to just go back to our floor plan and then roof. So roof's got the arrows, which means there's actually 3 ways to draw roofs in Revit. So by footprint means you draw the footprint of the roof, you define slopes to that footprint, and that's how it pitches up the roof and things like that. Roof by extrusion is exactly what it sounds like. You just draw a profile and it will draw whatever sort of roof you want in that profile along the reference plane. So you can have a curved roof, you can have a triangle roof. Some people do Dutch gable roofs or gable end roofs that way with a roof by extrusion. If you have roofs of 2 different pitches, roof by extrusion is good. If you're really unlucky, and I know a colleague had a job where it was a hip roof, but it needed to be 3 different pitches, which sounds really confusing. We ended up drawing it because it needed to meet a certain point on an upper floor. It's okay. We ended up drawing it as roof by extrusion and cutting it out. So I'll show you how to do cutouts of roof by extrusion as well. 99 times out of 100, I use roof by footprint, and then that 1 time out of 100, I'll use that roof by extrusion. Roof by extrusion is actually really good for ball nose verandas and concave verandas because you can get that curve that you can't get with roof by footprint. The third roof or way you can do a roof is by face. If I hover over, is it going to give me a little video? Never ever use this tool. So Revit or Autodesk has a program called Format, I think. So Format is essentially Autodesk's answer to SketchUp. Some of the stuff they've done, I've seen, it looks really cool. It's amassing, like exactly like SketchUp is. It's amassing. You can create masses. A roof by face is generally done on a mass that it looks really weird. So like something like the Adelaide Oval Southern Stand roof probably was a roof by mass, like because that project was done in Revit. They probably did it by a mass. For me, I've only really worked on conventional buildings that have got flat roofs. So it's never really been something I've got into, and probably something you'll never ever really use, because generally a roof like that would cost a bit of money. You might use being civil. Shapes like that might possibly. Possibly. So you're probably the only one that's likely to use massing and things like that. So under the roof tool as well, you have roof soffit, fascia, and gutter as other functions as well. So the same with floors. So you've got, I'll touch on floors again later, but you've got architectural floors and structural floors. Literally the same thing for as far as we're concerned. Floor by face, again, is like a roof. You can add it to weird things. And then you've got slab edge. Now the slab edge that I'm going to show you tonight is not technically correct for construction drawings. It's just a bit of a, like, it doesn't allow for a brick rebate or anything like that. Maybe in the last week I can give you the brick rebate family and show you how to change that if we have time. It's a whole different kettle of fish profiles in Revit. It's not as straightforward as it sounds. So I'm just going to click on the roof by footprint here. It's going to bring you into sketch mode. So some of you may have accidentally entered sketch mode by double clicking on something in the last couple of weeks, and I've probably just told you to hit the red cross and get out of it, and that's that. So sketch mode allows you to draw anything like a footprint or a floor, a footprint of a roof, a floor. You can change a wall profile in sketch mode. Filled patterns and hatch patterns are done in sketch mode, so you draw the shape that you want and it just applies a hatch to it. So, this roof is good. So, this roof, or this sketch mode, does the floor. So there's one tool that comes up in the sketch mode for roofs that you may not have seen yet, or haven't seen the pick walls tool. Probably not. So there's two ways to draw a hipped roof to this job. There's the right way and the not so right way. Does everyone understand what I mean when I say sail over trusses? Yep. So for those that don't know, I'll see if I can find a picture. I guess that's probably the best picture. So the sail over truss means there's no boxed eave. So the ceiling height is where the eave lining is, essentially. So to draw lines in here is exactly the same as drawing lines when you're drawing walls and things like that. So you can come in here. You've got a couple of options here. So you can say define slopes, chain, offset. So you can offset if you want to draw a 600mm eave. You can do that, just say 600mm and then trace around your walls. And you don't have to measure it, you don't have to move it 600mm off. I've probably never ever ticked radius. So you can go 600mm like that. There's another couple of, there's other things to check in the options. So the type of roof we're going to choose in this project tonight is the custom orb 90mm top chord, 45mm batten and 16mm color bond roof. The other issue with this file, it's not really an issue, it's a good thing to double check, is just make sure you're drawing your roof on the ceiling level and not your ground level. You can move it after if you do it. I do it all the time at work. It should come up with a warning saying you are drawing your roof. I know why it doesn't come up with that warning now, actually. It comes up with a warning to say you're not drawing your roof on the highest level or something like that, and it says, again, you're probably learning by now, there's heaps of stuff that you can fix after the fact in Revit, and that's why I get you guys to check a 3D as you're going, because you can identify if it's wrong then and fix it, and then move on and try and remember to make sure that base level is set to your ceiling level. So the first way to draw like a sail over truss, I'm just going to do this quickly, and I'm not going to worry about doing much else at the moment. So again, just tracing that exterior wall, and that's not right. It doesn't like that. What can we do there? So it's struggling to find, if you do put an offset in and you exit out of the drawing tool, it will take you out of the whatever dimension you put in. I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to use the trim tool to fix that up later, because it's not letting me snap to that edge. And it might be nice sometimes. I'm going to have to use the trim extender corner tool just to finish that up, and just to fix that up. So I'm just going to hit the tick on that. Apparently I haven't fixed the corner on that one either. And I'm just going to go to an elevation. So essentially that's what a sail over truss is. Ceiling height and the soffit lining is the same thing. So in reality, that's actually wrong for a boxed eave, because your structure is not touching your structure. So theoretically, your roof needs to come down by about 300 mil. I very rarely draw a job that way now. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan and show you the way that I draw jobs, because it removes human error out of it a little bit. But it does require a little bit of an explanation about structure in Revit. So in this picture here, we have a blue stud frame. We have a green structural core of the roof, so top chord of our truss. So in Revit, once I pick the pick walls tool, it has a tick box here to say extend into wall core. So I click extend into wall core. Basically what it means is this little red circle, they're going to intersect and touch. So that's what you want most of the time. If you don't want, if you want that sail over truss, you just generally do it the other way. But sail over trusses, I'm assuming, aren't probably done very often. Noah. No. I know we tend to use them at work for issues with windows and head height and second level stuff, where you're talking about an overlooking height of 1700 and the client doesn't want obscure glass, and yeah, we tend to use it at work for that. But the traditional boxed eave is probably still the most conventional built structure, roof structure around, unless you're doing a skillion. So just keep that in mind. So you've got your roof batten and all that sort of stuff here. So the thing when you need to, or when you're doing pick walls and extend into wall core, you actually need to account for the dimension from your face of the exterior side of the stud to the exterior side of the cladding. So in this brick veneer, you need to add an additional 150 to whatever eave dimension you want. So if you want 600 eaves, you need to draw it at 700, 750. If you want 450 eaves, you need to draw it at 600 sort of thing. So you just need to take that calculation and add whatever it is from the outside face of the stud to the outside face of the cladding. So if it was like fibre cement sheet or Skyon or Axon, I should say, or linear, you probably wouldn't worry to say 600E from the stud work or 450E from the stud work, depending on how you want that detail done. So I don't know why I've got two Revits trying to open, but I can't close that one. So I'm in my sketch again, pick walls. I'm going to go 750 because I want a 600 mil eave. So you can see how much quicker that construction, and then I can effectively go tick and my roof's done, was. So it's just a case of, if I undo that now and go back and step you through it again. So pick the eave, tick extend into wall core again. Extend into wall core is one of those things, if you escape out of the tool, you'll have to tick it on again. After, you'll also notice that if you go, so if I just tick it, so if I tick it on there, go like that, and then come up here and go back to it, it'll look really like it looks a little bit extra. If you do that by mistake, you can click on the line and extend it a core, and it will move it back what it needs to be. So it is quite helpful that it remembers that. The other benefit of this, and I can't stress this enough, what do you reckon would happen if you moved a wall now? If I moved, so let's say if I moved this rear wall of the building out 2 meters, what do you think would happen?
The roof should go with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so the roof will go with the same overhang, will go with it. With the first method that I ran through, the drawing the lines, do you think it would go with it?
No, because it's not anchored.
It's not constrained to the wall. So this is really good if you end up making lots of changes to your design as you're going along to use when you pick walls and extend, because it means you've got to fix one less thing at the end. And you know, sorry.
I was to say, to finish that command then, is it the green tick?
It is, but there's a couple other things we can do here. So again, because I didn't put it to the right level, I can put it to it now. So the other thing as well, so you've got these little triangles with a line under them. So that basically means there's a slope defined, so there's pitch defined to that line. So if I had just drawn lines without any triangles on them, what do you think sort of roof I would get? Pancake flat. So if I had drawn a roof with just one line having a slope arrow or slope triangle on it, what sort of roof do you think I would get? Yeah, so you get a skin-in roof with one slope tick. So I see lots of people using a roof by extrusion to get their skin-in roofs done. But then if you want to go from 3 degrees to 5 degrees or to 2 degrees, you've got to change that sketch. There's 2 ways to change the slope in a roof. So you can, or there's 3 ways actually. So you can go around and click on every line. I'm just going to choose 25 degrees like this. And like that. Oops, that was not 25. Oh, it was. It's 20.
You didn't anchor the back parts to the wall.
It should be.
There, I don't think.
Oh, it's not extending a wall core.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it won't. Oh, that'll be a small issue, but so I'll just fix that. So you can go along and pick each line and change the slope to that line. You can do a window select and come over here to your properties, and under dimension you can change them all to 25. Change them there all in one foul swoop. Or my favourite one, which I'll just show you and then I'll come back into this, is you can, once you've completed the sketch of the roof, you can change it to whatever you want. Oops. There, you can go 5 degrees, you can go 30 again. So for a roof that has eaves all the way around or no eaves, so the overhang would only be 150 because you want the fascia on the outside of the brick, that's the best way to do your roof. Sort of thing. So and then you can go, so to edit your footprint as well. So I'm going to explain to you underlay before I show you how to edit your footprint. So quite often underlay is something, it's a bit of a incorrect use. I always think of underlay as being under something like carpet. So Revit changed this a couple of years ago, so it's a little bit more complex than it used to be, but the underlay tool allows you to show anything above or below your cut plane by a level on your floor plan. So I use the underlay tool to show my roof. So about midway down in your properties, you've got underlay, and if I just drag that a bit bigger. So you've got underlay range as base level, range as top level, and then you've got an underlay orientation as well. So if I just click underlay and make it my I finish floor level, come back into my drawing. See how my roof has magically appeared on the drawing and the hatch pattern that's on the roof, but we'll ignore that for the moment. So that's how you start to get those elements that are above, like your roof generally for residential stuff, on your floor plan. The look up and look down orientation was more for building services. They put that functionality in because if you want to look up at something on a level and see the services versus looking down. Sometimes it's just trying to work out what combination it requires to get it to work. This one's pretty simple because it's a single story. It's unbounded. Probably look up and look down ends up, or look up takes away the hatch pattern sort of thing. So that's, and then the underlay allows you to select the roof. Can anyone not select the roof if they've got one in the project? So if you can't select your roof, if you remember back to that first week, and I said you might have a red cross down here. Have you got a red cross on the one that looks like 2 sheets of paper, second in from the left? So basically that is saying you can't select underlay elements at the moment. So that's a pretty important one to have off, and I forget it's there sometimes as well. So now you can go back in to edit your footprint. You need to select the element that you want to change, and then what comes up on the ribbon is edit footprint, and then you can come back in here. So you could change it to 450 eaves if you wanted. So notice how my temporary dimensions going probably from the outside face of the brick at the moment. That was not extended. I probably could have done a window select and changed the overhang up here to them all as well, sort of thing. So, let me try and work out how I'm going to get this to work. So, if you guys want to make while you're in this sketch mode again, what is our bedroom 1 eave overhang? Make that 750. And just leave the roof pitch at 30 degrees. Cool. So if you just have a look at my model, so what you'll notice is when you use the pick wall tool and it's got a different eave overhang, it's going to keep shooting that roof down till it gets to whatever overhang you want. So at the moment, you can see here, there's a bit of an issue. It's generally not how it's built to have a lowered roof section. So Revit has a tool for this in sketch mode. It's called the Align Eaves tool. So if I go back to my floor plan, up here on the very right hand side, you have Align Eaves. So basically what this tool does allows you to copy and paste offsets off of levels. So that should be, there we go. So see how on this one it's saying minus 346, minus 346, minus 433, 433, 433. That's because we've dropped that eaves a further 150 mil out, sort of thing. So you can use this Align Eaves tool to actually copy and paste, and unfortunately this is the only way to do it, to copy and paste. So you need to select the one that you want to copy. So we want to go minus 346, and then paste it to the one that we want to raise up. So, and you can just keep going once you've copied the one you want. So the issue is, if all the eaves are aligned, it's not going to give you that ability to get into that tool. See how it gives me the error where it says all eaves are already aligned. So it doesn't let you get in there. But if I complete my roof and have a look at my 3D, it's got rid of that dodgy little, this dodgy little bit here. So that's the way you can change the eaves up as well. One other thing that's in the roof by footprint and the by pick walls tool, if you select the line, actually could have worked it out that way. You also have in the properties, you have a base offset from, plate offset from base. So if you have a raised portico of some description, you can type that in there. I'm just letting you know it's here. I'm not going to show you how to fix it at the moment. And go back to a 3D, and you effectively get the reverse of the issue we had before. So you can do that sort of roof in Revit. I would tend to end up doing that in sort of 2 roofs. Have one for the main house and then one for the nib or the jut out sort of thing. But that's an option there as well. Not too many people remember it's there, including myself. So everyone feel roofs are fairly easy. They're not very scary. For something that's a conventional hip and valley roof, they seem pretty easy. To be honest, like, it's not too bad when you use the pick wall tool. If you use, and it's a conventional roof, it's when it's something a bit different, or skillions aren't too bad. So if I wanted to create a skillion roof out of this, I would probably just select all these lines with the reverse Windows select and define slope, roof slope. And a 30-degree pitch is going to be really something special. So I might just come here and change it to 5 or change it to 2. So the thing with this, so I go 5. So does everyone just want to make their roof a skillion roof for the moment? So again, edit footprint. And then you can either select them all and undefine slope up in the options in the 2 locations, or you can just do that reverse Windows select, so the right to left and not the left to right, and it will select anything it touches, as opposed to the left to right. You need to select everything to select it, and you can undefine the slope. You can change that slope to 5 degrees and hit the tick. So there's a bit of an issue though. Not that we've drawn our ceiling in yet, but there's a massive gap between our roof and our walls. So there's a couple of trains of thought here. I'm trying to think, most of the beach houses I see generally corrugated iron or something, and then they've got a different cladding. Like they've got a cladding on the main part of the wall, and then the skillion's got something else, like fibre cement or something. Or, you know, you might want to continue the brick all the way up in some places. So to do that, to continue the brick all the way up to our roof, you need to select the the wall that you want to go up. I tend to find this is way easier to do in 3D than it is you can do it in plan region, or plan, you can do it in elevation, but again, you're building a 3D model, you may as well do it in 3D. In fact, in the last task we do, it says to do it in floor plan. I pretty much tell everyone just do it in 3D. You've got the tools there, you may as well use it. So this introduces the attach top/base or detach top/base. So I could in here go top offset, I'm going to guess 1,000. That cuts through my roof. So I could edit the profile. If I made that 30 again for some reason, and went attach top base, see how it cuts to the roof. Then if the roof changes for whatever reason, pitch, we'll go 10 degrees, it goes up. So the easy way to do this again is that hover tab. So hover over, hit tab trick, and then go attach top base, and then select your roof, and it goes up like that. So that's pretty easy. That hover tab trick is really helpful. So to undo that, or I go to an elevation. Whoa. What I come across sometimes is I'll come to this wall, I'll come over here and I want to go, let's say I want to go back to 2 meters for some reason, but it hasn't affected my drawing. I go, what? And this is generally when I pick up someone else's model or one that I haven't looked at for a really long time. And I go, how do I do that again? Always just double check. Detach top base does the same, the reverse of what we just did. So the attaching overrides the constraints a bit in the properties. You just need to detach it to change it, sort of thing. So it's really hard with a scenario like this. I'm trying to think what times I've had it at work lately, and I don't think I have. But just keep in mind, if over in your properties something's not moving, when you're changing the numbers, just check if it's attached. Or detach it from an element. That one's attached already, so I'll attach it again. Sort of thing. So it's just keep that in the back of your mind when you're working on models and picking up other people's jobs, sort of thing. Okay, I'll leave that attached. So I would only do that for a skillion roof or a gable end to a house. I wouldn't do attached roof for everything else. So if you guys just want to jump back in your sketch or edit your footprint again, we're going to put the hips back on our slopes back on, so we have a hip and valley roof, so we can add our fascias and gutters and our roof soffits. I'm just going to choose 25 again as the slope. And again, so has everyone got their roof back to looking something similar to this? Don't worry about if your roof's still attached. Sorry, your walls are still attached to your roof. It's not going to affect this drawing. So has everyone got that back to a hip and valley roof? No, this is the. Just change the. Yeah. Oh, so you need to fix. You can come over here and change it to the ceiling level. Just hit the T.
So just this one here.
Yeah, so you can draw a roof on whatever level and then move it up to whatever level you want. like again, like just I do that all the time.
And I was wondering why mine's like upside down on yours.
Now, I draw my roof, all my roofs at work always on the wrong level because it never prompts me to check the level. I think I worked out why it does that, but I'd have to check.
Yeah, when we're going through the right area, I've missed a couple of those steps on the back side. Yes, that should be
Outside.
outside. Is that just the way I see it?
Probably.
Okay.
Without.
So I'll cancel that. Change this.
Yeah. I think as standard what people, yeah, they're just outside. Yeah, the cursor can be quite
So that's like,
questionable.
and then say 25 is 16.
So what you can do is ignore that, hit a tick, so complete sketch. So yeah, just hit a tick. This is loading now. Come over here. Change it to change the roof type to the other one, and then you can also change the pitch there to 25. Yep, and it applies to everything. So I find that way easier than going around and picking myself, sort of thing. Cool.
I can't see mine. Can you just show me? I've got the roof in 3D, right?
Yep.
You can't see it there.
So it's the underlay. So when we scroll halfway down, exit sketch mode. So cancel.
Yeah.
Scroll halfway down on the brown properties. Underlay there.
Yeah.
Select finish wall.
Come back.
One second. Change that one from elevation import to 0 and then change the level there.
I'm always lost time.
If you want to have them, down the time, see that little
Route. Oh, yeah. Back to
cycle through them.
over to.
But if they disappear like that again, there's a little bit of a bug that's been in the program for years, and cycling through that sort of thing. So cool. So we're going to add our fascia and gutter to this. So adding our fascias and gutters is easily done in 3D view, or our 3D view. You've got to draw it as it gets constructed. So you've got to put the fascia on first, and then you put the gutter on. So you go back to roof, with the drop down, you can hit fascia. So you can add fascias to any roof edge. So if you want to add ridge capping to your projects, you need to work out how to create a profile of a ridge capping and create a fascia ridge cap, and you can add that to your projects. I'm going to ignore saving mine at the moment. So it's just a case of going around the exterior top edge of our roof and clicking on it when it highlights. So this is where it gets quite important to be able to manipulate around the model and things like that. You want to try and pick, I think you can add fascias to fascias, maybe you can't. Anyone want to have a guess at what a tip of doing it quickly might be?
Select the whole thing.
How would you select the whole thing?
In the floor plan area.
No, so it only applies to the edges. So you're right, but how else do we normally select? Sorry?
The elevation.
Yeah, that's the one. Tab. So tab is your friend for the fascia and only the fascia, not gutters, unfortunately. So if you hover over an edge and hit tab, it's going to go around the entire building, and then you just need to click the mouse button once, and you've got your fascia to the entire building. That will only work if all of your fascia is in the same alignment. So if your roof is higher or lower for whatever reason, that's not going to add that fascia to that bit of roof. So the process is the same again for our gutter. So it's just going around. This one, unfortunately, you have to click on the outside. So hopefully by now you guys are all pros at panning around the model. So remember that if you hold down your middle mouse wheel, which is generally, or your middle mouse button, which is generally the wheel, that allows you to pan, and holding shift down at the same time allows you to orbit around the model. And you should be able to add your gutter all the way around. Now there is one issue with the gutters in Revit. If you do happen to have a gable end, I have seen a few workarounds. You can't add an end to the eave. So in any 3Ds you create, it will appear open unless you can work out some magical mystery way of modeling an end of a gutter cap to it. I tend to just go, the customer's going to like the drawing so much, they're not going to notice the little details, like no corners and no gutter caps to the drawings, sort of thing. That's my theory. They're going to be so amazed with your design, they're not going to nitpick over the little details. Only we're going to nitpick over the little details. So is fascia and gutters sort of pretty easy? It's just adding them, walking around. There are various downpipe families out there. Some of them are good, some of them are average. I'm pretty sure Revit doesn't have an actual downpipe family in it. Oh yeah, but that would be like pulling hair, like pulling teeth. I would suggest you just have a quick Google. Family. So where am I going? BIM Object's probably a good one to have a look at content of. So you can download that as a .rfa and maybe find a better one than what that one is. Or Revit City is another really good website to download content from. Downspout was drawn a while ago, so I'm not sure how well it would be go in 19, but that's probably the ones that you'd have to find by yourself. You could go around, if you had the full version, and model the plumbing, like all correctly, but
You could go on the sites like Stratco, Fielders.
I don't think Stratco, I don't think they have downpipe families. They have rain heads and things like that, but I don't think they have. They might. I haven't looked for a while. Stratco definitely doesn't. Fielders probably, I think, does. But it's just, again, searching the internet for downpipes and things like that. But I'm sure there's something out there because I'm sure that's all I've copied before. So the last thing we're going to do with roofs tonight is, or for this project I should say, is we're going to do a soffit lining to it. So if you guys want to flick back to your floor plan. So go back to architecture, roof drop down, soffit. If you guys are using the model that I have created for you in a previous time, you actually have the correct HardyFlex one. If you guys aren't using the one I've given you, you probably have a 300mm soffit family. Does anyone have that 300mm in their properties, or is everyone using my model? Everyone's using my model? Cool. So again, you know how last week we changed the wall construction? If you do have a 300mm soffit lining or something like that that you want to change later, it's just a case of coming into edit structure and changing the thickness there. So it's pretty easy. That's pretty easy in that aspect. So to create your roof soffit, there's actually a tool that only comes up for roof soffits. It's the Pick Roof tool, or roof edges. So if you click on that one, you can select, basically what it does is it'll just select all the exterior edges of your roof and it'll draw around that. So anyone see an issue with what it's drawn at the moment?
It's on the floor.
It's not, oh, it is on the floor, yeah, it's good pickup. Any other issues? That might, you know, if you want to get quantities out of Revit, eventually might be an issue. So your eaves lining is only the 450 or 600 sort of out from the brick. At the moment, you just have one big area. So if I finish this tick, I now get 126 meters of soffit lining. That's a pretty big overorder sort of thing. So if I jump back into edit boundary, so basically what you need to draw when you're doing your soffit lining is a donut. It's the easiest way to explain it. A house-shaped donut. So you can use the Pick Wall tool, and you don't need to extend it into the wall core for this one. You will need to put in 150, sorry. This one does not want to play ball with getting on the outside. So when you've got the Pick Wall tool as well, this double arrow should flick it to the outside. Oh, if I tick extend into wall core, it should be right now, shouldn't it? Sorry. Do tick extend into wall core and try and get it on the outside of. Can be a little bit tricky to do it. This offset here as well, just leave that as minus 335, sorry. Just because if you draw it at your ceiling level, it's going to appear through your roof. So I just make that 0 and complete my sketch, and I'll show you. Go down elevation. See how I get this really through this line here that you don't want to see. It needs to go down. Just use the number 335. Normally you would just draw a section and work out how far it needs to come down. But we have a number here that obviously was used previously. Then you can have a look around on your 3D and your roof should be pretty much finished. Just change it. So you've done the pick roof. Do the pick roof. And just so just go back in. Yeah, there you go. So you got the sketch now. Then come and choose pick walls. Yeah. Extend the wall core. Just for some reason that seems to make it work a bit better. And then just go ahead and choose your walls. Yeah. So similar to what you did for the roof, but just. So in theory, drawing your roof soffit this way should mean if your walls move, everything goes with it, and it doesn't mean you have to rejig it I'm not gonna lie, I used to spend my time going round and round in circles fixing things.
How do you get yours to show you your roof?
It's just, yeah. But you can only take this. So it's underway.
Oh, that's right, yes.
So just choose this.
Yeah, so now it's like that.
Yes, now you can select your roof. So, if you're struggling to select your roof soffit, if you select your roof and press HH on the keyboard, which is temporary hide, means you can see in your building. And then, if you do it for the fascia and press HH, hide your fascia, and HH again to just reveal it to your roof soffit, and then you can edit the boundary if you need to. And to bring everything back, you can come down to the light globe down here, the sunglasses, and reset temporary hide isolate, or you can hit HR, which is hide. I say hide reset, but sorry. Yeah, let me just. Yeah, I even sketch over the walls.
Yeah, so that's the soffit front end line. I chose
So
the
pick
wall.
that again.
Yeah.
You didn't choose the roof though.
Yeah.
So you edit the boundary. You should be able to add.
I was having the same thing again, on the ground. Yeah, I fixed this one, the one with FCL, but I'm trying to do the FBT and it's still there. So I have the same problem.
Change it.
I have so many things missing and then it's like.
Yeah. Now if you get the roof. So now we're back to 3D and get your roof off again. Just like that. So select your roof, delete edges, and just go HH on the keyboard. That's temporary hide. Pan around again to the top.
Oh, there we go.
And then you can edges again is easy, so just select your wall. Yep. HH again.
Yeah, that's why I think this,
And now you edit boundaries. Sorry.
you did this as well, but I couldn't select anything with this one. But with this, you guys, you can. Yeah, that thing here is missing. Which is why probably this doesn't go in effect when I click.
Because you click twice,
Yeah.
it probably puts two lots of lines in. So if you just undo that, click continue down the bottom. It'll throw up an error. You undo both of those. Now select this. Now you got your donut. And HR is hide reset. Yep. So now you need to go around and use the pick tool.
Sorry.
Upside down interior design.
Yep, so you've done the roof, now you need to go around and pick the wall, so you create that donut shape.
New
So the E's just
2019.
sitting in the
I am sorry.
pick wall.
So that's what I want.
No, if you want to cancel it, you don't want to.
Yep, and then you just go around and pick the walls.
Okay.
Yep. So what's the picture on it? Yeah. That's probably figure out the footprint. Click your roof, go footprint, line your eaves. Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. It's the same. same, then these sections will be fine.
So that might be then with the brickwork, not the stone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that 150 out. So now it's fine.
That
Yeah.
sort of still get the feel of valley.
I would say just guessing probably 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, just so you probably exit out a tool by mistake at one point, and then you just forgot to not know what to do.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you don't have to restart. You can just do this.
Yeah, that's very nice.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
That's it.
I prefer to do that.
Mine is doing the same thing again, but we moved it up, but it's still wrong. Like it's still as wrong.
So you go back to your floor plan. So if you just want to hit the tick and complete the socket line sketch, so in your properties, go one flat, hit boom, view. So I have to really think there where that was. Go view. Down here is roof face, properties. Cool. And then come over here, scroll down about midway till you get to underlay dot bit probably. Yeah, there you go. Underlay. So make that finished floor. I do that all the time. Don't worry about it. It's easy. Yep. And go finished floor level. So now you can see. If you click back in your drawing, now you can see roof. So now if you just temporarily hide your roof here, you click on the roof. HH on the keyboard. Now you can find your soffit. So yeah, that one. Edit footprint. Sorry, edit boundary. It drives me nuts that it's edit boundary, edit footprint. Go back to your floor plan. Now you can use your pick roof tool. Because now you can see your roof on your floor plan. No, so we're going to pick your roof edges.
Yeah.
So yeah, you click there. And I think just move these to the kitchen floor. It's just to show you it's there, sort of thing. So you effectively created a donut. That's the easiest way off.
Yeah.
Called it is it's the donut. Sort of thing. So I think you've probably got the same issue with your
Like
150 off. So it should be running through.
Yeah, so that 129 is the full core.
Yeah, it's in the full core. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if I see the button, I will recognize what I did, but it always goes missing. So I have to download, look for it, and then until I look for them, I forget what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean?
I think it's just fine.
Yeah.
So just sort of.
I didn't think this would be so complicated because I'm so good with
How did you do
Photoshop,
that? Yeah.
like professional level, and I'm
So you go none.
pretty easy.
How did you get
And now
that?
I'm looking at this like it's Chinese.
Yeah. So we use uni as well.
Yeah. So we have
I went
so,
to
yeah.
Bachelor of Interior Architect, and
Yeah. Select
yeah,
one.
I want to do this because of getting a
Okay, select.
getting marble as an architect.
So 150
I get
is
a
in the
lot of
full core.
experience there, and I do that with you know, do drafting and
There's a software.
design.
Yeah. So,
Me? Revit.
well,
I didn't understand the donut explanation. Choose colors. Speaks too fast.
and just because some people can visualize it really well.
What did you do? Select the outer wall.
Yeah, that should be helpful.
Yeah, we want to in-house so we can change it to do all that. Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing anyway.
This is all new, so it's going to change things, right?
Yeah, I think I've
So you
actually
just
worked
selected
out
this.
the thing is because this particular program sometimes
So
doesn't
I
work.
want to do this
We
one
have
with the
ground line,
design. Like
and I think it's a
always,
digital
you
warning,
know,
so it
like
won't trigger that warning to tell you not
like
to
on
write
this
it.
side, so the design it's all new to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
track.
again, you can keep that
Yeah.
faster.
Right.
But
So
if you go
like
front
everything after this was did that. Like YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send panorama.
Like
Donuts. That show us donuts.
Yep. I'm just gonna check. The ground is really hard.
Yeah.
So, go to the software tool.
Oh, yeah, okay.
我再看一眼。
Software.
Yep. So you want to choose the pick roof tool
This one here.
or pick roof edges. Yep. And then select your roof. Yep. And just come way down. You've got your pink sketch line. And you want to go choose the pick wall tool. 150 offset, extend the wall tool. Seems to be the easiest way to not to get it to work. And then you just go around and just select all the walls again. Probably actually could hit tab. I'm thinking. If you hover over and hit tab on it, just once. Just hit it once. Don't hold it down.
Yeah, years ago. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe not.
That's the same six, really. I've done most of it.
Yeah, it's just as easy to go around. And then just check the level that you're drawing it on. Let's check the 3D. It's not so because it was left over from an adjut, it's left it as minus 335, so that's probably about what the socket needed to come down from that smooth level. But you can just draw a section and move it down. Just check.
The height offset is from which base point?
The level you specify, so we've specified our finished ceiling level, so it's gone minus 335 from our ceiling level. So that, and generally, like if you're drawing this on a job that you just started to be set to 0, it's generally minus 3 something. So
The red.
the software lining is, yeah. That's probably the easiest. They've got a hole in the middle.
Yeah, but it has
Yeah, it does. If I just grab it, it's a bit hard to see when it's one. So that's the one that's just drawn. So you had two there. So that one's the wrong one. Yeah. So good pick up. Sometimes when it's hidden line, it's just yeah. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
Sort of.
It's very slow for me. You go too fast. But that's fine.
You pick it up. It's just it's a case of picking.
I've redrawn the roof about 4 times because I've made mistakes. I had the bit going down too far and coming down that little step thing that you talked about.
Oh look, I learned
I had no idea.
Oh, that's the line.
It was here. This was dropping down.
It's good.
It's okay now because I've redone it.
So just make that. Assuming it was like something like this, like that.
Yeah, there's that step in there.
It's here. Oh, I just like if I made them all. So the way to get around that is probably.
Okay.
So this select underlaid element is crossed, so it means you can't select anything that's underlaid, which is really annoying. So it's there, and then some overlays are very hard to select on that, and some aren't. So just keep in mind if it's got a cross there, it means you can't select it. So put something, and it's got a cross there, you can't select it. But to fix the eave thing the wrong way, come up to align eaves. Change it to adjust height. So it needs to be how you get these minus 33s,
Yeah,
20s.
I remember that.
And then you go adjust height, and it's just a case you select the one that you want it to be, and then you paste it to the one that you want it that is wrong. Like you want to paste it to the desired height. Then you go back to 3D, which we have here. So yeah, it's all come back. So it's just using that tool. And to be fair, I didn't know about that tool until probably 18 months ago. And I've been using it for a long time. But again, all the roofs I've done had been the same eave all the way around and all that sort of stuff. Not like parties here or raised porticoes there.
do the ski.
So that's just
So I missed that. I was,
footprint plus 2. So undefined the slope. So up here you got properties defined slope. So essentially, if those fit down, you freak out, and then you can just change it to. That's the easiest way to do slopes. Sorry, skiddings. It's just to have one slope on the roof footprint.
do that again. Sorry, you zip too fast.
So I just do a window select to get everything like that, right to left.
You haven't selected this top yet.
No, I don't want that one because I still want to find the slope to that one,
Okay.
not to the other whatever number it is. And I define the slope there, and then hit the tick, and then you can just change the pitch there. So that's the easiest. I find the easiest way to do this, the slope. Sorry, the skidding roof. I'm going to show you how to do a skidding roof the other way though. So if I can grab your guys' attention. So I'm going to quickly show you before we have a break, I want to show you how to do a ceiling. And I'm going to show you how to do a roof by extrusion. So what we might do is we'll do the ceiling first. And then we'll jump in and do our roof by extrusion. So if you guys just want to open up your floor plan again. Where's ceiling? So ceiling has its own tool called ceiling. If you guys want to click on ceiling, there's two ways to do a ceiling in Revit. There's the automatic ceiling, or there's sketch a ceiling. I very rarely, if ever, use automatic ceiling. So automatic ceiling will only work if there's walls bounding the ceiling sketch. So if I hover over a room here at the moment, see how I get that orange line around my room? At the moment, my ceiling is set to my finished floor level, and it's offset 2 meters off of my finished floor level. If I make that 2730, I think that's what my ceiling height's 27, sorry. Ceiling 27. See how I just get a cross now, or like a warning, and it's not actually selecting any rooms. So the other issue with doing this is you have to remember to move the ceiling up or down if you change the ceiling heights up or down. So I tend to use the sketch ceiling. I assign it to my ceiling level. I have a base offset of 0 or minus 30 if I've got trusses. We'll just do 0 tonight. And then you can use the pick wall tool to draw around your building. To be honest, I don't know if it's just laziness or it's just easier. I tend to just draw a sketch a line around the entire exterior walls, or all my exterior walls, rather than doing individual room ceilings, I guess. Because if you want to get quantities out of the program later, or just basic areas, a bit of 90 mil stud work's not going to really. By the time you might have 9% breakage or extra allowance rather than 10, sort of thing. And if you do start making lots of changes to a model and you've got lots of individual ceilings that are connected to the walls, you can start throwing up heaps of errors that aren't worth the time and hassle. So that's ceilings. That's the way I've done ceilings lately. The other thing with ceilings as well, so that's the ceiling, it's just 10 mil at the moment. If you didn't want to do it that way, you can have more than one ceiling. So I'll just use the rectangle tool because it's the least amount of clicks for this house, if you wanted to do it the other way. So you can have more than one ceiling in a sketch. So you can have, so in sketch mode, the only thing you can't have more than one sketch of is a roof in the sketch. So you can have more than one floor sketched in sketch mode, which we'll get to later. As you can see here, we can have multiple ceilings sketched in sketch mode. Actually, it'd be interesting to see what the difference is in the areas. Let's look. Sort of thing. So it's just a case of, I tend to find like, and then where the rooms aren't square, you might have to just draw around sort of thing. So if you guys want to have a play around with doing that, I guess talking of ceilings and that, it's always a debated question whether or not you should model plasterboard or you should just not worry about it. I tend to be in the camp of don't worry about it. It can complicate the model too much. So we have an area of, oh, I did miss that bit there. Let's add that in. So we've got an area of 89.586 versus, so we've lost about 4 meters of area doing it the other way without a calculator. Oh, and so hopefully ceilings are fairly simple. Like sketch mode is, you do spend a fair bit of time in sketch mode sketching things out. So does everyone sort of understand ceilings? What we might do actually before I run through roof by extrusion is we'll put our rooms in and then we'll have a break and then we'll come and do our floor and our roof by extrusion, and then that's pretty much it for this project, and then we can start on the next one. So rooms are really helpful in Revit. Oh, I've got other stuff to say about too. So if you remember way back to when we first looked at that hotel model where it had 8 floor plans for our ground floor plan and things like that. So obviously you need to duplicate floor plans to do that sort of thing. So if you put a room in a model rather than just putting text to say bedroom, and you have other floor plans, you can tag that room, so it'll keep that identity data all the way through, and you can tag that room in sections, so it obviously knows where it is. I believe the mechanical guys use the area volumes for rooms to work out AC requirements and things like that. Probably more so for projects like big commercial ones than residentially, but so rooms are pretty easy. They're on the architecture tab under room and area. It's just a case of selecting the tool. You can choose to place rooms automatically, which should work in this model. You've also got tag on placement there. So it's just a case of clicking in. If I go place rooms automatically, it should fill in the rest of them for me and tell me that they've created 9 rooms. That's quite a handy tool, but you can, by accident, put 2 rooms in a room and accidentally go OK, or you can just delete rooms as well. So this room tag in this project there's a couple of options. So you've just got the room tag, you've got room tag with area or room tag with volume. I pretty much just use the room tag one. But you can change the tag once you put it in. To change the name of the room, it's just a case of clicking on the room name and then in the room, and you can say laundry and then typing it in. Same like we did with our levels and things like that, it's the same process. There's heaps of other data that we'll get into a bit later about what you can put into rooms and things like that as well. One of the other important things that I forgot about rooms is if you go back to architecture and have a look at your room and area. So you've got this room separator. So what your walls do, basically they're a room separator. Like, all the walls that you in this building are room separators. What do you do when you have a big kitchen, living, dining room that's just one big area, but you sort of want to break it up into a couple of different spaces and have a couple of different tags? You use a room separator line. So it acts like a wall, just isn't a wall. So the room separator line I might use here to break up my kitchen and dining area or meals area. If you've put a room in the place already, it'll come up with an error. So it's taken my kitchen down there, so I just rename that dining meals. Apparently I turned that off from this, so so in this project, the room separator lines show as a maroon dashed line. If it's a project that you started with the architectural template, it'll be a light blue dashed line. These lines will print, so you just need to select them and right click, hide in view by category. That will hide them all for when you draw more of them if you needed to. So, just out of interest, has anyone noticed an issue with their roof now? On the floor plan? Or is it just me and the way I've got my underlay going? I don't know. So it's the only. So sometimes there is an issue with what you can see on your underlay. I really wish they'd have a visibility graphics for your underlay in Revit. So at the moment, my ceiling is actually covering my roof outline. So you can see like here I have a little bit of my roof outline. Here I have a little bit of my roof outline, but I can't actually see once the roof hips come into my building, I can't see them. That'll print like that. And then sometimes if you do have issues, as a bit of forewarning, to not being able to see your roof underlay when you print on your plan, like you can see outside the building, but it's not inside the building, it's because your ceiling is masking it. So the easiest way to do that is just to jump into visibility graphics, so VV or VG, and untick ceiling, and it comes back. So you can't see it in the floor plan, it's still in the model, it just comes back later. So we might have a quick 15-minute break. So you guys can be back at, I'll make it 10 minutes. So you guys can be back about 7:45. We'll jump back into doing our roof by extrusion and slab or floor. Yep. Yeah. No. So the issue with having it like that is it's not so it covers the tree. No, that's okay. So the easiest way to get that stuff over there.
是你告诉我的吗？哦，那个，这里啊。
That's the work if you slam it into the side of the screen. Squeeze this in. And then bring it back. That's the easiest way I found. These things are a lot better than they used to be. The testing are rubbish. To get rid of the section box. Just that box there.
一开始的时候就得选这个，其实也没什么问题，只是一个形式而已。但是这样就很 handy 这个东西，它直接密度平方就出来，就不用人家在外面弄。对呀，这个还蛮好。还是有很多。
但是就用异形的那种建筑，它不太好做吧？
一样的。
So it's just you to complete the sketch.
你认真上课，你很不认真，我发现。
Yeah. No, that's okay. It's just more it's more about form than the accuracy tonight.
不是现在没说。
So we're going to jump in and do our roof by extrusion. And then we'll jump into our floor. Or do you want to do your floor first? Floors are pretty easy. And we'll do our slab edge. Might do that first, then we'll finish with our roof by extrusion. So that's not what I wanted to do. Floors. You have the option to do architectural floor or a structural floor. Generally just choose the architectural floor. Again, you get the pick walls function or the draw function. So this one is not as important for drawing. So you can just draw a line around the outside of your building sort of thing, or you could draw it by pick walls. Again, the same issues is pick walls, if the wall moves, it should go with it. If you just draw it, it won't tend to go with it sort of thing. So I tend to use pick walls. I'm going to extend it into the wall core. I'm also going to extend it 150 out from the wall core, so the brick, so the slab ends in line with the brick. And then it's just a case of going around the external walls again and selecting them. So this, I call it the train track. Means absolutely nothing for us. It's the span direction. So if you were a structural person, the span direction would be the shortest sort of thing. Again, doesn't really mean anything for us. I've never really looked at anything into it apart from the fact that it's saying it's there. And that's pretty much, and then you can hit the tick to complete the sketch. We're just going to choose our 100mm generic floor. So this project has a couple of different floors in it as well. And just hit the tick to complete it. You can check your 3D now and you should have a nice floor to your project. So slab edge is exactly the same as adding the fascia, it's just under a different tool. So we go back to floor and drop down to the slab edge tool. So again, I'm pretty sure it's tab works. So hover over, hit tab, and then click on your mouse. That will add it in one hit. Or you can go around and add the slab edge to your bottom face. Oh, that's a good point. So the other thing as well, if you accidentally miss-hit when you're putting your slab edge in, like I just did, so if I accidentally click there, it will exit you out of the tool. Rather than going back into slab edge or fascia and creating another slab edge or fascia or gutter, I would select I generally select the slab edge, fascia or gutter, and then up in the options or the ribbon, you get add/remove segments. I select that, and that will let you add more segments or take segments away from that slab edge or fascia. The reason I do that is it's then one element. If you end up having 2 or 3 different slab edges or fascias or whatever, it just, if you want to change them or delete them, or it just makes it a bit trickier. So floors are pretty easy. So everyone sort of think that. You've done sketch mode with roof slopes. That's heaps harder than anything else for roofs. So floor is pretty easy. This job doesn't have a section. So before I jump onto doing our roof by extrusion, I'm going to show you what to do to change the underlay or change the line style of your roof. At the moment, just having a consistent line looks a bit flat. So that's driven by your visibility graphics, so VV or VG. You guys go down to roof. So you can type in roof as well, and it should take you there. So again, I think I did I introduce this last week a little bit? So this is where you start to control the visibilities of stuff you can see in the project. So before I turned off my ceiling, if I want to turn off casework or doors, I can do it here easily. Or if I want to change how things look in this floor plan only. So roofs, I'm going to override the transparency. I'm going to make the roof 100% transparent. And okay, I'm also going to click on the, that's not what I wanted. That's not roofs. So I'm going to override the transparency, make it 100%. I'm also going to untick the fill pattern graphics. Now in 2019, I think, 2018, I can't remember which one now, you now have the ability to have 2 different hatch patterns in the same hatch. So for example, if you want to have a concrete one and then have a solid fill with a different color behind it. Let's make that black. Oh, that was just in that floor plan. So I go change. Might not do that too. It's probably a bad one to show you, but you can have 2 different hatch patterns, which is actually really helpful for doing some things more commercially that I was doing at a previous job, where I was trying to show vineyards and all that stuff on an overall site plan. It just used a lot of the plotter's ink. It is quite good. It actually is quite beneficial now to have 2 hatch patterns in the same hatch, because sometimes you want to add color to something in a hatch pattern, and you had to have 2 hatches there. So now to have it in the same tool is actually quite helpful. So to turn off, you can turn that off though. You can override that. You can untick visible for the hatch patterns, and that will turn it off and you won't see it. The other thing you can do there as well under roofs is you can change the line pattern. So I might use the dash long. You can change the color. So I think one of the last places I worked like to have blue as their roof roof line work, and you can change the line weight as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 to 16 probably means absolutely nothing to you at the moment. Just line 1 is the thinnest, and line 16 is ridiculously thick. I think it's like a 10 mil line weight. Don't know why they decided to put that in there, but just leave it as no override, and then you'll notice that your roof is now, my roof is a different color and different line style. So this is where you start controlling how your drawing looks, and rather you can also do that by going right click, override graphics in view by element. The reason why I wouldn't do my roofs by element is because you're going to have more than one roof. You may have more than one roof in a job. I would either do it by category. So if you do it by category there, it applies to the visibility graphics as well. You can see the changes that I've made under visibility graphics has come up here. And you can also open the visibility graphics from that dialog box. One of the other cool things that Revit has now is the section box tool. So I click that. It's going to give me a 3D view of whatever I've got selected. And then if I click on the box, you get these 4 nodes, or 8 nodes, or whatever it is, where you can drag. Really handy for looking at models. I really like them. I like the ability to actually pull apart. Rather than hide everything like I showed you before, this is another option to inspect another bit of the model rather than temporarily hiding everything. So to turn that off though, under properties, you have section box. If you untick that, it goes back to the full model. So we'll finish up by doing our roof by extrusion. So go back to architecture, roof by extrusion. It's going to ask you to pick it's going to ask you to draw a work or pick a work plane. So you can either name a work plane, pick a plane. I tend to use pick a plane, and then I'll just choose our north wall. It'll ask you to open up an elevation. It'll ask you to say what level do you want to draw the extrusion on. Now it'll take you back into sketch mode. So this is where you can start to draw your bullnose verandas. That's probably a really bad bullnose, but so I have bullnose across the front now, and then it's just a case of shortening the extrusion in 3D or in floor plan as well. You can do it. So if you guys want to have a bit of a play by roof by extrusion, you can do whatever shape you want as well. Don't be limited by having to do a bullnose veranda. So you can do, well, I have done sort of that sort of roof before where it's got that curve to it. Which didn't really help, well, it doesn't help on this model, but. So you can make whatever shape you want. So you go, architecture, roof, by extrusion. Pick a plane, yeah, okay. Pick a plane, yeah. Click that one. So you're just choosing a face which you're drawing it in. Yep. It'll come up with that. And you just go okay. And now you come back into sketch mode. So you can draw whatever shape you want. The only thing with sketch roof by extrusion is it can't be a closed shape. It has to be open. And then, yeah, it might be that one. So open up the north elevation of that one. And yeah, okay. So you normally fucking weird roofs. Probably don't mean they're built because it costs way too much money or it's not constructible, but some people do their butterfly roofs like that.
I don't make a gable, but that didn't do anything.
No, they just give you a flat roof all the way through. Yeah. So it's just telling you to draw, like it's giving you a drawing, and just go through that as well. You can change that. And you can draw some funny shapes. So you can draw like a flat one. You can draw like it's just yeah. And then or you can and then so you got a flat roof now. So you like you can draw something that's a little bit different. So a curved roof is probably what I would use it for. Most of the time, I wouldn't use it for. I just draw a roof like footprint and not have any slope beneath rather than start a flat roof. Sort of thing. So it's just, to be honest, I probably used it a whole 4 times in the last 12 months, and that's in this room. Yeah, so, yeah. Oh yeah, so you got to pick off the section box. Yeah. So select something. Just one thing probably. So you can choose the roof. Yep. And then if you pick that one up there, that gives you the section box. And then you can click on the box and drag it in and out. No, that's the wall. The box is there. Yeah. So like if you're doing joinery stuff and things like that, it's really good to have a quick look at it. Yeah. If you hold down shift. Yeah. Yeah. Really cool ones. Yeah. Yeah. So not the issue with these is that typically because like trying to get a corner, yeah. What I can do, you have to have two. I tend to just copy my roof and rotate it 90 degrees. If you do, then the roof openings to get that cut sort of thing. So I can do that with you later. Yeah, sure. We probably like it. Just the one. And it needs to be like country because obviously she the blocks will fly out. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, it's not my taste. So. Yeah. So we're placing this around right. We're just basically making the final. Yeah, just the shape that you want, and it's just to show you that you can draw it that like that's the way to draw the wall. Yeah. Able to if you want to do something slightly different. Yeah. Yep. So you can just draw like I'll show you. So through and so you can do something like that. Go to tip, go to 3D. And you got that roof there. Or you can just edit the profile. And if you want to make it less. Roof by extrusion is not a tool I use very often. Really, it's only curved roofs, bullnose verandas, or concave verandas is what I really used it for. I certainly wouldn't use it for a flat roof. Yes. Stuck? Flexible. So you're fitting the plane that you're drawing in. So we just choose that. Go east or west, ocean. Which one? You just choose your style. And then you can just draw a random shape in there. So that's the one down. No. Yeah, you grab that arrow. You drag it down. Yeah. So are there any questions? Other questions? It's a nice set of stairs. So basically what we've covered in this is all the tools that you need to use to draw a house, or the main building elements. Obviously at the moment we haven't really covered through dimensions too much. What we'll go through now though, is just before we jump into that next project, which will probably just make us start on, and we'll start again, or we'll finish off next week, is the different types of views that you can do in Revit. So, as I mentioned, in that hotel model we looked at in the first week, it had 8 or so floor plans for just our floor level, which are all duplicates of our floor plan level. So to duplicate a plan, there's 2 ways to do it. So if you go to View, Plan Views, you can untick Do Not Duplicate Views, and you can create your other views there. Or you can just right-click, and this is the preferred method, Duplicate View. So there's 3 ways you can duplicate a view. It can just be a straight duplicate without any annotation, dimensions, tags, anything. It just has model elements. You can duplicate it with detailing. That will come. So if I duplicate this at the moment with just duplicate, I get a blank copy. Then if I go back to duplicate with detailing, I get a copy with my tags and my dimensions and all that. So, I'm trying to think. Most of the time I use duplicate with just duplicate, because I'm trying to get plans for consultants to use elsewhere, so I don't want any annotation on it. The last one is always really difficult to explain on a project so small, but it's duplicate as a dependent. So you'll notice what happens differently to this one is instead of coming under here and being copy 1, copy 2, which you can rename, this one comes under your main floor plan model, and it's got a little, it's dependent 1. So anything that you do in your dependent 1, so if I just draw some detail lines at the moment, if I close that one and that one, if I go tile window, close that, and so I just tile my windows. So if I make if I move this tag in here, it updates in the other one. If I put some detail lines in, they appear in the other drawing. So the main reason, there's two reasons that I use duplicate as a dependent floor plan. One is if I have a job design that just fits on an A3 without dimensions. So Metricon has 3 designs that I can think of. So a Kalani, which is an acreage, so it needs a 28 meter wide block. So the house is very long and short. So that only just fits on an A3 block, an A3 sheet without dimensions if the customer doesn't make any changes at 1 to 100. And then we have a sheet at A2. So what I'll do is I'll give them a sheet, just an A3 floor plan with notes on it without any dimensions, and then I'll give them an A2 sheet with dimensions on it and the notes. So I'll duplicate it, so any changes I make in one happen in the other, sort of thing. That way, you don't forget to copy a note from here to there, sort of thing. So that's what I use dependent, so that means you can put it on different sheets. That's the other thing. So Revit won't let you put another view on same view on a different sheet. It'll tell you it's already on the sheet, so that's why you need to duplicate your views. The other way you can duplicate or use your duplicated dependent views is the way I used to use it a lot. Is you can actually crop your so you can do crops. So you can have two, like part A and part B. A job that I worked on in Mount Barker that I'm pretty sure is finished construction. It's a nice boomerang shed. It's the gentleman's shed, like for retirees to go do stuff at, and it's got the Mount Barker floats and things like that in it. So it's a massive shed. It's got like 10 doors, 10 6-meter doors either side. So clearly that's not going to fit an A1 sheet. So I separated the project into part A and part B, and the corridor down the middle was the joining point. And that's what I used the dependent views for. So if I had a main model sort of view, so I dimensioned and annotated in that, and then I knew on the sheets it would come up. That's really all I'm going to tell you about the duplication of views. Does anyone have? Yeah.
Duplicate for the plan with detail. Let's say if I change something in the original floor plan.
Yeah.
But the duplicated one.
It'll only change if it's if it's dimension and you move a wall, it'll change because it's hosted and the dimension's just a byproduct of where the wall is. If it's a note,
change the dimension for annotation.
No, it'll change the dimension. If it was just a text note or a tag might, but if you move the tag, it wouldn't update. So text won't. Yeah. So if it's duplicated with detailing, and you have 2 of them, they'll be independent, sort of thing. So it's the same for sections as well. So you can duplicate sections if you want to create a detail of it. That's how I sort of worked that around, which we'll touch on in the next project. So yeah, you can see why your project browser ends up being really important to have naming conventions and things like that. You can make a dependent view an independent view. You just can't take it back to being a dependent view. So there's a couple of idiosyncrasies in Revit that you can't do it. So I tend to. And the other thing with the dependent views is you can't hide stuff by category. So if I go right click, hide in view by category, it hides them across all of my dependent views. You need to hide them by element in that view only, and that will apply to just that view. So if I undo that, if I just go right click, hide in view by element, it just hides it in that view. So again, it's probably not something you're going to come across massively, because if you're working for an architect, you probably have an A1 plotter or an AO plotter or a plotter in general. or hopefully most designs fit on A3. Most designs fit on A3 these days. Blocks aren't that big to allow for big designs. Like you're probably going to have the issue because you got massive stuff. But what sort of scales do you draw your drawings at?
It depends. If it's civil stuff, probably 1 to 500 or 200, 100. Yeah,
So you guys more
probably
probably.
around 50 or.
You guys probably more adjust the scale to suit the page, don't you?
Yes.
But you're drawing on AOs? Or
Not anymore. It used to be all A1 or B1s, but these days everyone wants it on A3s. Yeah.
yeah, A1's good because it scales down A3. Yeah. So you can also obviously you can also duplicate your elevations and as a dependent as well. I've never done that to an elevation. But again, if you've got a really long building and it doesn't fit an A3, you can do the dependent thing and cut it in the middle and have the two elevations on the one sheet. So it's just playing around with that sort of detail, like that, like getting it on the sheet and things like that. So it's just to know it's there. I haven't really got a scenario or exercise for you guys to run through to practice it, which I might try and add at some point. So if you guys want to shut that program or that project down, we'll close it and save it. Apparently I haven't saved it yet. So for the last bit tonight, we're going to make a start on our class exercise 2, our simple house drawing. So at the end, our house we're going to draw a house that looks like this. It's going to have a gable end. We're actually going to add our fascia, and I'm going to show you how to do a sloped soffit lining or eave lining. And I really need to find a better photo. We'll take a photo. Basically, I'm going to show you how to draw this detail on this picture where the wall wraps around and the eave wraps around a little bit on that gable end so it doesn't look so blank. So what we might do tonight with this one is we'll run through it together and then what we'll do is so hopefully in the next 40 minutes or so we can get our exterior walls in and start on our interior walls, and then next week you guys can just make a start on it, and then we'll come together again to do the roof and the floor, and I'll show you how to do the colour fill legend down here, which is this one, which is really handy to show customers or clients or customers. You can change these colours to all be bedrooms to all be blue and wet areas to all be red or something like that, to show them like this is your living area and you can get square meters out of the living area and things like that. So and we're going to go that it has some sections in it and a couple of plan details, so showing you how to start to put your working drawings together using Revit. So if you guys just want to open up a new project using the architectural template, so file new, architectural template, and OK. If you guys just save the project, if you've got a USB, that'd be great. If you haven't, save it to the desktop and grab the same computer next week. It's the exercise. I'm just going to call it the basic.
For what we're doing?
Sorry,
CMS?
just basic design,
Yes, yeah.
and just put your name at the end of it. Or
Yeah.
so again, what's the sort of first thing we need to do when we start a job?
Great.
Yep. After we've saved it, sorry. Well, I don't tend to save a job straight away. I'll wait till it reminds me to save it half an hour later.
Can you create a template that you just open up if you want?
Yes, you would. Absolutely. Because this would get this this is showing you how to do it in a work sense. Absolutely. There's no way I would be setting up.
Most offices have their own templates that they create the whole structure for levels, ceilings, drawings.
Yeah, so I would absolutely set up a template for a workplace. Probably, as a little side note, I would do probably 3 to 5 jobs and then set up the template. So roll one job into the net, like delete everything out of that job when you finished it, and then keep rolling. And then you've sort of made a decision on what you like and what you don't like. Don't just make a template and try and make it the best template in the world, because it's a continual project. It's a continual improvement project. Unlike AutoCAD, where you can make the template and forget about it, it's a continual improvement project. Like, you'll always be working on the template. And you're like, if you're doing architectural stuff where it's one-offs, you're quite lucky. Like, we have 100 odd houses with a lot of facades that don't tend to change year to year. So we have a few different templates now. So absolutely, I would just set it. You could probably set up a level template and then roll, like do a base one and then roll with that. But yeah, set one up. It's going to save your. Huh?
I think Ryan's got it sorted, actually.
Yeah, it's. You bet. Ryan, do you have that template sorted up there? Yeah, it's going to make life a lot easier for yourself. So we're going to create another level down below of our floor level of minus 150. So again, to do that, go architecture, datum, and level. We want to make it a non-story level. So we want to untick our plan view. And also we want to untick in our properties, down under identity data, you have building story and structural. We want to untick building story. And again, you can just draw that in anywhere now and rename it again, or move it and name it after. So I'm just going to name ground line. And yes to rename corresponding views. Did I not untick? I didn't untick plan. And then you can just break the elbow minus 150. And then don't forget, you can propagate the extent once you've selected the level across to the corresponding elevation. So you only have to do it twice. So just click on the level, up in the ribbon you've got propagated extents, and just tick the corresponding elevation. So you just have to do it in the north and the east. We should only have to do it twice. And then once you've done set up your levels, just open up your floor plan.
That propagate function you're talking about.
Yep.
I remember that from last week, but you're saying you only want to propagate it to.
It'll do east to west and north to south,
Right.
but you can't do it from east to north or south. Like it has to be the parallel.
Right. So you started on north.
Yeah.
I've started on east, I think, which is what's asking me to do.
Yeah, I started at east and then I moved to north, sort of thing. So. So has everyone created their levels? So you guys just jump back to your floor plan. And we're going to select the architecture and wall again. So same issue as last week. We have a brick veneer 250. We're going to change our brick veneer 250. I'm going to let you guys choose timber or steel to brick veneer 240. So again, because we don't want to have a 250 option in our project, I wouldn't duplicate this. I would just rename it and choose the change to 240 and OK, and then change the structure by clicking on Structure Edit and just changing that air gap again to 40 mil, not 50. And then the other thing you can also check under your construction, it'll have the width of our wall, which you just want to make sure is 240. Because again, the name doesn't correlate to the width. The name is whatever you type in the option. I quite often get in I'll go duplicate, type in the size I want of windows or change it to, and I'll forget to change the width or the height of the window because I've typed it in. I just think must think I've already done it, sort of thing. So if Autodesk is listening to this, it'd be really nice if you add that function or ability to do that to Windows. So now that we've got changed our wall to 240, we just want to change our height our parameters for our wall height. So we want to change it from the height to our ceiling level. It's probably going to be easiest to draw this if we change the location line to exterior, finished base exterior. And just as well, just because we're drawing with a bit more detail, just change our detail level down the bottom left-hand corner to medium, just so we can make sure our bricks on the outside and our studs are on the inside, as opposed to the other way. So generally, 9 times out of 10, you want to draw in a clockwise direction in Revit, because that should put the cladding on the right side to when you're drawing. And the location line also does have a bit to do about that, or say about that. So again, in this PDF on page 6 are the dimensions to set out. So the way I would look at this is I would try and get my exterior brick dimensions correct, and then I'd go in, so get those right, pin those in place so I can't accidentally move them. And then I'd go in and put roughly draw my walls in, internal walls in, and then I would put some dimensions in and make sure everything's right to the drawing. So it's a bit of a process to it. You guys can chuck that PDF on your other screen if you haven't done so already. And again, you've got to remember, you want to try and draw in the middle of the elevation markers as much as possible. So I'm just going to draw across 13 to 30, and then I'm going to come down 10.0550, 10.550, and then come across 4070, and then come up 3360. And then theoretically it should snap at 9160 because it's parallel to where we started. And that should work. So what I would stop and do at this point is I'd go to annotate, align dimension, change it from all center lines to all faces in options, and then just dimension the outside of the building to make sure the dimensions match what we have specified. So if you hadn't changed the location line, you'd left it as wall center line. Does it work as well? Should do. So you can see here how important the location line is for the wall, for drawing the exterior dimensions. So you can see, like, I've drawn it as, the second one I've drawn as being wall center line, and you can see it's already out by a little bit.
So what, I need to choose this.
So instead of being the, is that readable? Not really. Instead of being the 13230, it's 13472 across the top. If you choose a different location line. So again, that's probably the one thing that you need to keep in mind when you're drawing buildings, and depending on how you're drawing them. If you're just looking at externals, the dimensions, choose finished face exterior. If you've gone and done a site measure up and you're trying to read your pigeon scratchings and trying to work out how that building went together again, I would draw it using internal finished face internals sort of thing. I would pretty much never draw it using wall center line. So has everyone got their exterior walls in? If you have, and is anyone's dimensions not in the right spot? Or the right number, sorry. So remember, to move your dimensions, it's just a case of clicking on the wall and then clicking on the dimension and then making it right. Oops, that's not enough zeros. So once you have your exterior dimensions correct, I want you guys to do a Windows select of everything. So pick up the dimensions and our walls at the moment. I'm going to introduce you to another tool in Revit. So you have up in the ribbon that comes up, you have a filter tool here. So the filter tool allows you to do a Windows select if there was more in this project and filter out elements that you don't want to select. So you might just want to select all your doors in the project, let's say, if we had them in here, and delete them. Rather than going click, delete, or hold shift down and go around and select all your doors. On a project like this, like this small, it's probably okay to do that. You can do the Windows select and select everything and come up to filter. I would go check none. I'm just going to choose my walls in this instance, and then check. If you had more there, you'd probably go check none. In this instance, you could just probably untick dimensions and go okay. And now I have just my walls selected. You can also do a save selection. So if I do that now, I go save my save selection as exterior walls. If I want to select them again, I have to go to manage, yes, and load selection. I can go exterior walls and it selects them again. So to do that, so filter, uncheck dimensions, and then over here you have, next to the filter, you have save selection, load selection, or edit selection. Does anyone plan on using LT? Don't worry. Just ignore the save selections. That doesn't exist. It's not an option. I don't know if it's worth the extra $3,000 a year, but
I've got 4 licenses, so.
The extra $12,000 a year. Yes, that functionality is not available on LT. So you can save the selection. So I've already got exterior walls in there, and then you can load that selection later. So it's handy if I used to use it a lot for drawing window schedules, drawing an elevation. So I used to save my selection as the text, and then I just copy it across every time I would say, the number and things like that. So the save selection is a handy tool, particularly at a point like this, because once we start adding our interior walls in there, the filter doesn't discriminate between walls. So it's just walls in general. It's not brick veneer walls or stud walls. It's just walls and windows and doors. That is the one downside to the filter. So if you guys have done that now, go ahead and start drawing in your internal walls. So if you've chosen steel studs for outside, choose steel studs for inside. I'm going to choose my timber ones. And then it's just a case, I find, of I would just choose finished face interior or exterior again. And again, the space bar flips the construction. So it's just a case of drawing the walls in there. Roughly how they look on the plan. Rather than unticking chain up here, I just tend to hit escape, and that gets you out of the chain that you're drawing. Rather than unticking chain and having to forget that at some point, because that does curry. If you are working on a couple of jobs in the day, that does remember if you've unticked that or ticked that previously. So I reckon that's probably where we'll leave it this week. If you guys want to finish putting your interior walls in, and then next week we'll put some dimensions in and start moving them. So again, it just needs to look sort of like it does on the plan. Mine doesn't look, it loosely looks like it, but not really.
So you don't want exact. You're happy with the
Not
interior
happy
walls
with
being
as rough as anything.
Okay.
Just for tonight. Next week we'll fix it up.
Right.
I still can't get the walls to move. I forget which one it is. What am I doing? I've got that one to work, but then I forgot it as well.
I just put the dimensions away. So you need to select, again, the dimensions are a byproduct of where the wall is, or anything is. So you need to select the wall first. So you just exit out here. The wall that you got drawn.
Yeah.
Yep. And see how it goes blue, your dimension now. So now if you go in there. So the other thing as well, which I'll touch on next week, you sort of want to move in a systematic process. So I tend to go from left to right, then up to down. So if your exterior walls weren't in the right spot, get your left to right one in the right spot, then go down to your bottom one and get that in the right spot, sort of thing. So I'd go like this way, and then I'd say that one. So once an element is in the right spot, move on to the next one that you want to get in the right spot. Otherwise, you're going to end up going around in circles.
Because I draw the whole wall here and then trim. I want to trim part, the central part. But if I use trim, I only can trim.
So you need to use
so that's why I use here.
Yep.
To
Awesome.
cut it.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
It's a little bit off, and I just use trim.
Yeah.
Cut it.
Yeah.
Which means you can't at the same time choose two boundary and trim this gap. The only two boundaries.
Yeah, generally like yeah. So that one and then
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
This is showing my exterior wall as a solid.
Yeah. So Z color down here. Change that to medium. So it's not solid, it's just in the wall construction it's got like when it sets course, it just shows as one wall as a floor height, just as a
like
thick,
like
so it's good for concepts and things like that when you're not quite sure what construction.
This interior wall should come to that edge. So this edge should continue along that side, that wall there, that edge there. So this needs to move across a bit.
Probably by 90, I think. Or if you just escape, you go for select that wall.
Sorry, somebody's not following.
No, that's okay. Just select that wall. Hit spacebar. So it flips it.
Yeah.
So I think, so that blue dot there and up there, it's a bit easy down here, just like, not see, but understand that the blue dot's on the outside, like on that corner.
Yeah.
So it's just a case of, flipping it on the axis rather than moving it, because if you move it, it can end up messing it up. Moving walls when they're joined is a bit of a headache sometimes.
Thank you.
So we'll probably leave it there tonight. If you guys just want to jump back on Learn. And jump to the Revit short exercises and refresh your page. I've just put up that roof step-by-step guide that I made if you guys get stuck on the house that we've drawn. With a bit of an explanation of how to draw it and why. And it's also got a guide there to add your fascias and gutters, I think, from memory. And how to get the use the underlay function to show on your floor plan as well.
Or look step by step.
Yep. It might be in the same place twice then. Learn is not very user friendly. Apparently they've improved it. There's a new one coming out next semester. I was like, great. I'm sure that's not very good for lecturers. So I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week.